Did you know that most of today's Italian regional cuisine has distinct historical roots? We'll go over the history of Italian cuisine from the Roman Empire to the Middle Ages in this video. Before we dive right in, make sure to subscribe to Creativersity and switch on notifications for more videos from us. The history of Italian cuisine. The history of Italian food is as extensive and as rich as the country's history, with roots that go back to Rome, its people, and its political, cultural, and social strength. Throughout centuries of battles, cultural mutations, and interactions, Italian food has evolved and altered in tandem with the evolution of the changes of Italy itself. It's a history as rich, colorful, and interesting as the most astounding of dishes. This is what we will talk about today: the centuries-long story of Italian kitchens, one of food, traditions, rulers, and warriors. The evolution of Italian cuisine. The early Middle Ages and the Roman Empire. The Italians' forefathers, the Romans, loved to eat. The banquet was not just a social gathering, but also a location where new delicacies were presented and tried. Imperial Rome was the ultimate fusion cuisine hub, embracing the flavors and ingredients of many of the regions it had conquered. Spices from the Middle East, fish from the Mediterranean coastlines, and grains from the vast plains of North Africa. Contrary to popular belief, the Romans preferred nuanced, intricate flavors, and their recipes frequently required sophisticated cooking skills. Ostrich meat, fish sauces, and roasted game, all washed down with liters of red wine, mixed with honey and water, were staples of the tables of Rome's wealthy and renowned. Of course, we're talking about the wealthy here, not the general public, who, on the other hand, base their diet on the simple union of three things: the wine, the olives, and the wheat. This was known as the Mediterranean triad, and is still considered important to the Mediterranean diet today. The citizens of Rome would drink wine, olive oil, and eat bread on a regular basis, along with healthy portions of vegetables, legumes, and cheese. The Middle Ages in Italian cuisine history. Different was Sicily's culinary voyage into the Middle Ages, which had become an Arabic colony since the 9th century. Islanders adopted the strange customs and tastes of their colonists, which was mirrored in their cuisine. Spices and dried fruit became a popular combination that may still be seen in Sicilian cuisine. Many people are unaware that dried pasta, which is now synonymous with Italy, was introduced by the Arabs, who noted how easy it was to transport and preserve, making it ideal for lengthy sea voyages and sieges. Dried pasta found its way from Sicily's ports to those of Naples and Genoa, as well as France and Spain. Not only did the influence of other populations modify and influence the Italian method of cooking and eating in the early Middle Ages, but so did religion. Following Constantine's declaration of Christianity as a legal religion of the empire, and especially since it became the absolute imperial religion with the Edict of Thessalonica in 380, Christianity began imposing strict regulations on people's behaviors and habits, including the way they ate. Food and eating were inextricably linked to sin and sexuality. As a result, spiritual perfection could be attained by abstinence and fasting, particularly through abstaining from meat consumption. Prior to the year 1000, the monks of Italy ate a rigorous diet of bread and lentils, with occasional additions of cheese and eggs, as well as seasoned fruit. Meat was considered a harmful aliment, not only because its production involved the act of the slaughter of an animal, but also because it was considered an energetic food capable of inciting unclean desires and passions in its consumers. In other words, meat, according to medieval Christians, could cause you to lose your chastity more quickly than salad. The duality ended when former Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne reconciled the two by proclaiming righteousness, an alternation of ascetic fasting with days of pleasurable feasting, when even religious authorities and the faithful could give in to the pleasures of the food and consider it an offering to the greatness and the goodness of God. Food became synonymous with celebrating and praising the Lord during the feast days, just as fasting and limits did during the rest of the week. Monasteries gradually but steadily abandoned the rigorous ascetic rules that had been defining them up to that point. They gradually became more open to the flavors and pleasures of fine cuisine on special occasions, which also served as opportunities for prayer and thought. Society in the early Middle Ages. By the 11th century, the social structure erected around the castle and its ruler had become organized in an autarkic economic system that allowed most of its members, craftsmen, military members, servants, and peasants, to eat regularly and with relative ease. The lord of the castle, of course, had a fuller stomach, and in the Middle Ages, food feasts were more like barbaric wars as compared to sophisticated sit-down meals. Till the ages got better and people started to get modernized, things in Italy weren't really the most visually appealing. The Renaissance and the Late Middle Ages. With the rise of the commune culture in the Late Middle Ages, town life flourished once more, supporting the establishment of early productive centers around which a whole new social class was to be founded, the bourgeoisie. The pleasure of fine food became, once again, a marker of social and economic standing among this crafts and trade milieu. Meats and vegetables were roasted and braised anew, and the classic technique of stewing and dressing dishes in rich, flavorful sauces was reintroduced. The lords of the castle went above and beyond to make things even more flamboyant, embracing the old imperial custom of presenting food and dishes on the plate spectacularly. The Arabs and their influence. The rediscovery of old traditional kitchen ideas coincided with the introduction of new culinary elements, particularly on the lord's table. Spices and cane sugar introduced to the Italians by the Arabs, and grown in Sicily replaced salt, pepper, or honey in many dishes, and helped to create new flavors and recipes. The cake was created between the 9th and the 11th centuries and was composed of sheep ricotta blended with sugar, sponge, cake, royal paste, and candied fruit. Arabs introduced sugarcane, lemons, and oranges to Sicily's cultures, and they quickly became part of its cuisine. All of these ingredients combined together with sheep ricotta traditionally produced in the south of Italy, and almonds to form the cassata. Even its name could be derived from the Arabic term kasat, which means small basket, and could refer to the container in which the cake was created. In any case, the dish's origins are unmistakably Middle Eastern, despite significant changes over the years. For example, pasta di mandorle, a paste prepared with almond flour and sugar that is a component in marzipan, was first used to cover cassata during the Norman period. They were previously wrapped with shortbread. Some attribute the birth of another delicious Italian sweet treat to the same period and people, the Arabs. It appears, in fact, that the history of gelato, the world-famous Italian-style ice cream, is deeply anchored in Sicilian soil and Arabic culinary heritage. Despite the fact that gelato, as we know it, did not become a staple of European tables until the 1600s. Because of its popularity in France, Arabic Sicily wins the award for being the first place in the Western world where its predecessor was manufactured. Also, tomatoes did not appear on the scene until the 16th century, forever altering what we know as Italian cuisine. Along with meat and fish, the new staples were potatoes, cabbage, sugar beets, and peppers. The Tuscan hills became a source of wine and olive oil, which found their way into the kitchens of the day. New culinary delights. As time passed, the history of Italian cuisine became more regionalized. The norm became lavish dinners and gastronomic enjoyment. Even the papal court did not shy away from lavish culinary and entertainment spectacles. Access to Oriental spices has played an influence in the development of regional flavors. It took some time for Italian cuisine to adopt new dishes introduced from the colonies. Potatoes, corn, beans, and even turkeys adorned the tables and the appetites of the time's Italians. Italian cuisine in the modern era. The classic pairing of pasta and tomato sauce did not become popular until the 17th century. Various trial and error attempts also resulted in tiramisu and pizza, which we now associate with Italian cuisine. The scarcity of food drove inventive cooking during the World Wars by restricting servings. Cooks of the period were obliged to make do with what was available. Once again, Italian cuisine had to evolve from opulent and extravagant to basic and inventive. Italian cuisine today. Italian food has continued to oscillate between the two extremes. While there was a need for change in the past, this new era experimented with the new by returning to the fundamentals. Modern cuisine even incorporates fusions of other cultural styles, giving this a more intriguing culinary approach. And that is the history of Italian cuisine. If you liked the video, make sure to give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe to Creativersity and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.